What's the whole truth about donuts?
Why might you want a donut next to you in the trenches?
How can you use donuts to complete a bicycle race in 0.0 seconds?
And what's the real reason Americans love their donuts?
Donuts are cool. Hello everyone, welcome back to Everything You Didn't Need to Know About. And today we are talking about everything you didn't need to know about everyone's favourite fried food, donuts. Yum, 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 yum. We, of course, will be judging the facts of our friends at the end to pick a winner. Will it be Nathan Kenny? Will it be Jennifer Jewell? Will it be Thom Adams? Or will it be me, Samuel Bain and Wheatley Smith? So, Jen, what is the whole truth about donuts?
Yes, Dan, what is the whole truth about donuts?
Oh, I get it whole. Like
Are you going to ask as well? Or the whole truth about donuts is that there didn't used to be a hole, except sometimes there did, and sometimes it was filled with nuts, and sometimes it wasn't, and sometimes it was created beforehand, and sometimes it wasn't. Basically, no one knows. So the classic ring donut that we're all familiar with from The Simpsons and Randy's Donuts and everything else, we don't quite know how that came about. There's a story about an American sea captain in the 1830s. He decided to put the hole in the middle of the donuts because either he was grumpy about the fact that if you twist them into rings, they get greasy, or if you leave them as like a whole donut, they get soggy in the middle and grumpy on the outside, like basically a Paul Hollywood nightmare. And then, so he cut out a hole in the middle of a donut with the top of a pepper pot, and that would make it cook faster or preserve better or something. But there's another story that, and I'm 99% sure this is not true because it's absurd and cartoon history.
Someone shoved their dick in a donut and pushed it out. Is that it?
Yeah, we are all thinking about shoving a dick in a donut.
He impaled it on the spoke of the steering wheel of the ship.
Isn't it just so they cook evenly? Because then you don't have a big mess in the middle. But also, I thought it was so you could use a stick so you could get them out, because they are about 1,000,000 degrees. As anyone who's had one of those, the chocolate explosion donuts that you get from the fish and chip shops, that are
so
literally
good.
like lava. Like you cannot eat them without.
Any toasted sandwich with tomato in it.
No, absolutely. But the thing is, the earliest record that we seem to have of donuts with either a hole in the middle or just filled with like nuts comes from 1830. And we've been creating fried dough since about 10 seconds after we realized we could grind grains into flour and turn that into dough and then fry that. Like the original donuts, which were called, I think, Ollie Cooks, which is oil cakes, is a Dutch word.
Sounds delicious, eh?
So they just looked like, they basically are those like filled donuts that you get now. It's just a ball of dough with stuff in the middle. But to get them out, you just use like a slotted spoon or like 2 sticks and lift them up. Like it's not a massive technical challenge.
Well, you just be the man and just reach in with your hand.
Exactly. Or your penis, that's what it's for. That's why there's a hole now.
I also, what I appreciate about this is that, given what I know about academia, you just know that at some point there was a literal fight over this, like a bunch of like donut historians, and there would be donut historians literally punching each other in the face about where donuts started.
I was just thinking of the academic conversations that I've been part of, where basically the more polite you are to a person, the more rude you're being. That is a very bold hypothesis that you'll put forward. You're incredibly brave to be saying this. It's not
really
like,
oh shit, did you hear
postgrad studies in England? Yeah, I used to have a law tutor who would never tell us that we'd got something wrong. He'd just say, it's an interesting interpretation. And you'd be like, oh, shit.
Shut up.
Okay, but I do that with like 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds, because like you don't want to be like, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's
it's a terrible
valid.
answer. Like, great, I like how you're thinking, but no. Chemicals are not made of tiny little fairies that punch you in the face when you eat too much of them. But speaking of, I can't figure out how to pronounce it. Oily cake or oily cake?
Oily cakes.
It's oily cake.
Yeah, that's what it means.
It's a literal translation of oily cake, because you're cooking a cake in oil.
Now they've changed it to Ollie Bollen, which as far as I can tell means oily balls, which sounds like a special
pretty common.
offer it. Yep.
So I love this, because this actually leads to my fact, which was, why do Americans love donuts so much? And it's because
they've all got oily balls.
They are a yeast-based donut. Is 25% by weight oil. It is a quarter oil.
Oh, that's gross.
I don't even know how that's possible. I don't know of anything. I didn't think oil is 25% oil.
While I was reading up about donuts, I got hungry and I ordered 12 donuts from Dunkin' Donuts. And I saved them. I was going to share them with my family, but then I didn't. And so yesterday I ate 12 donuts just sitting at my computer.
One of the oddities of level 4 in New Zealand was that you could order donuts, but not like other foods. It was classed as an essential, right?
Because it's a bread product.
Yeah.
Well, it's also because you can put the donut on the stick and like 2 meters away.
Yeah, so it's easy.
Like those terrible donut boards that were massive at weddings a couple of years ago. You get a big piece of wood, and then you put a big piece, put loads of pieces of doweling rod on it, so that it looks basically like a giant shit hairbrush. And then you put donuts onto. You know, in The Simpsons, when Homer sells his soul to the devil and he wants a donut, and then the devil makes him eat like 1,000,000 donuts. Yep. It's kind of like that, but crappy, and put on the side of a warm hall for like 4 hours so that all the donuts are slightly dusty and covered with flies.
You know what? You're not getting it, Jen, because that is an ancient fertility ritual. And those donuts, do you know what they're representing? Think about it. It's at a wedding.
So I found out that the country that has the most donut shops per capita is, of course, Canada. For some reason it's Canada, but the city that has the most donut shops is Boston. Hence why you get Boston creams and Boston
creams, yeah,
buns and stuff like that. They love their desserts there.
Oh, but that is why the pop culture correlation between cops and donuts is because in America, donuts are kind of quite ubiquitous, and donut shops would often be open really late at night or really early in the morning. And so cops would go there because if you're working the graveyard shift, you want coffee and something to eat. And so it became this like symbiotic relationship where the cops wanted, something to eat and a drink. And then the donut shops quite liked having cops hanging out because they're open at 3 o'clock in the morning and quite frequently get robbed.
Any donut always seems like a good idea when you buy the donut. And then you get like 2/3 of the way through the donut. You're like, I'm committed now. I have to finish it. And after then, it's
what are you talking about? I ate 12 yesterday.
And did you feel good after?
I feel incredible.
How does your
I haven't been to sleep.
Sam is still on the sugar high. Sam has not come
There was a donut shop in the States somewhere, and they started putting like pain relief medication and things like
they
that.
put NyQuil and Pepto-Bismol on their donuts, and then the FDA shut them down. In fairness, they were called Voodoo donuts, so I don't know what people were expecting.
Oh, it's incredible.
Krispy Kreme's slogan is happiness through donuts, which I think is a perfectly cromulent way of achieving happiness. And Dunkin' Donuts reckons that you can order coffee 25,000 different ways at their shops, which I think is too many, controversially.
That's why the lines there are so long.
Yeah.
People reading through the menu.
I'll have a coffee
just have
with one
a
sugar.
coffee.
I'll have a coffee with 2 sugars. I'll have a coffee with 3 sugars. I'll have a coffee
the whole reason why donuts stereotypically in the pink boxes is because of Cambodia. Because there's like this massive kind of spring of like Cambodians making donuts, and instead of going, they had the white and the red, and the cheaper one was the pink, and so they bought these pink boxes and delivered all their donuts in pink boxes, and that's where the kind of donuts come in pink boxes thing came from.
Yeah, well,
from
also,
Cambodia.
Cambodian donut makers.
Wow.
Cambodian donut makers.
Yeah, well, they wanted to do red boxes because red is the lucky color, but it was cheaper to go pink, and they were operating around, is it LA, wherever Hollywood is.
Yeah, LA.
So,
what?
Yeah, I genuinely am so bad at geography. But so that meant
what?
pink.
You didn't know. You didn't know that Hollywood was in Los Angeles.
I knew it was in California. I didn't know it was near Los Angeles. I've never been to LA. It seems like a bit of a shithole, to be honest.
It's great. It's where
I go to
Disneyland is. You
California
take
for
your
Disneyland and Disneyland alone. But yeah, so because that's where Hollywood is, their pink box donut got into loads of TV shows and movies and stuff, and so it became that popular like connotation between them.
Do you guys remember when the Simpsons movie came out in 2007? They, the makers of the show actually donated big fiberglass donuts to everywhere in the world that's called Springfield. So there was one in the South Island of New Zealand, and so they put it up.
Tiny town called
Hey,
There are 200 people that live there. And they put up this donut, and half the town were like, this is amazing. It's going to bring people in to come and see. And it did. Lots of people came and had photos. The other half of the town were like, what the hell are we doing this for? We are an alpine town. We don't even sell donuts here. Why is it here? And then a couple of years later, someone burnt it down. And then they then later replaced it with a cement one.
Which is more traditional, because the classic Randy's donut, the massive, like, whatever it is, 30-foot tall one, is made of cement, which just is terrifying when you think about it. It's such a small building and such a massive sculpture. It feels like it should crush the building beneath it.
It just makes me think there's an island in the Pacific called Truk where the currency is these giant stone circles that they carve out, because the amount of work that you put into actually carving it out represents value. They're basically trading donuts, aren't they?
That's right.
This giant concrete, unburnable donut.
But also probably undigestible.
I don't know if you guys do this as well, but whenever I see the word don't, I imagine that is short for donut, because I imagine like it's a contraction, so the dash is where they've replaced the letter U. Every song like that, I think it's Donut, Stop Believing.
I love that so much.
Meg, my loving wife, can I please buy some donuts? Don't. And Sam was going,
Donut. Okay, I'll get 5 donuts.
Okay.
I did look up to see if there was anyone called Dunkin' Donuts who's like capitalized on it, and there is no one, which is a very strange thing to me. I think they killed him.
Did you know that a cousin of the donut ran for president in 2016? A man called D's Nuts, and
Yay!
he got like 6% of the vote in Minnesota and 8% of the vote in North Carolina.
Those are 2 states which have legalized marijuana, I believe.
I was doing my research for this thing, and during the First World War, the Salvation Army that we sent to the front, or that the UK sent to the front, gave things like tea and chocolate, but the Salvation Army for the States made donuts. So they were on the front lines, bombs coming down, guns, everything. But we'll get a big vat of hot oil and we'll sit beside it, because this is a good idea. And we'll make donuts. Oh, you could have this easily packaged chocolate. No.
But how annoying would that be? You're like, oh, they're sending reinforcements. It's the Salvation Army.
Did you hear about how the Red Cross stepped it up for World War II? So they would turn up with these massive trucks, and you'd be like, oh, thank God, some first aid. No. The American Red Cross sent people to the front with pretty girls, gramophones, and hot donut machines. So
hell yeah.
War sounding great.
War sounds like fun.
That's not to get the morale of the Americans up. That's all the Germans watching going, hey, you see that shit?
You're not taking this seriously. They're having a pint.
We're eating fucking sauerkraut, and they're both girls and donuts.
Have you guys heard of the Tour de Donut? It is the most amazing thing. This is a bike race that came out of Illinois but has spread throughout the States. And it is a bicycle race where you're encouraged to eat donuts. And for every donut you eat, 5 minutes gets taken off your time. So the last one they had was in 2019. And the guy who won, you have to ride 40 miles. The guy who won 2 hours and 26 minutes. But because he ate 18 donuts along the way, his time got deducted to 45 minutes, which is incredible. Especially because...
So how many would you have to...
Oh, if he had only eaten 9 more, he would have done it in 0 seconds. Yep. Which I ate 12 donuts just sitting at my desk doing nothing. I reckon if I was pedaling along, I could get 27 into me pretty easily.
Does someone just go along with a broom handle and they have to kind of munch them off as they go past?
A ship's wheel.
They spin it around and it just drops into your mouth as you go past. But the thing I love about this is because the guy technically did 40 miles in 45 minutes, that works out to be 88 miles per hour. Which
so
means
what
he went back in time.
He went back in time.
presumably to the war to get some more donuts from those hot babes. Kenny, do you remember when we went to New York together?
That was cool. We went and saw dinosaurs. There were
We
heaps
did. It was great. You left and we stayed on a little bit longer. And while we were there, we tried an amazing thing called a cronut from.
Oh, did you go to Dominic Ansel?
Exactly, the original place where they made it. They invented them, and like he invented them by stealing them off other people. But he started making them in May of 2013, and we went there in July of 2013.
Oh wow! So you were there right for the start of the craze.
Yeah, it's half croissant, half donut, all delicious.
We went to a Cambodian restaurant where they had donuts, but they weren't Cambodian donuts. They were just donuts.
What color was the box?
They weren't pink. That was the thing. They were like white. They did so well. Basically, it was a Cambodian restaurant, and they do donuts on the side. And the donuts were so successful, and the Cambodian restaurant was not. The Cambodian restaurant closed, and they went off and made a food truck and started selling donuts. And they are incredible. It's called Friday Donuts, and they are the best donuts I've ever had. They do fry bread donuts, which are so good. It's if you are in the Porirua area or like an event, I recommend going to Friday Donuts. If you can.
I didn't realize we were sponsored on this podcast. That's cool.
They resell through other bakeries because we got Friday Donuts from Aro Bakery during lockdown.
Yeah.
I scheduled my bread delivery for Friday so that I could get donuts.
And thank you again, Aro Bakery, for your sponsorship on the show as well.
I take sponsorship in a croissant. Yeah.
And that guy in 2013, we appreciate your sponsorship as well. Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Good work on the donut. Thank you so much.
Yeah. I went to Dominic Ansell's in New York in 2015. So 2.5 years after he started doing them. And it was still, you had to wake up at 6 a.m. to queue up for when they opened at 8 to get a cronut.
Can I just point out that as a dentist, do look after your teeth, floss and brush. Thank you. And now that's got covered. Let's go eat 19 donuts.
Just quickly, okay, how does everyone spell donut?
I spell it the Duncan way, D-O-N-U-T.
I spell it D-O-U-G-H-N-U-T, but both are accepted.
I spell it D-O-U-G-H-N-Y-E-T, for there's no dough in these donuts.
Oh, niet.
Yet. I think you're making a beignet reference, which is my personal favorite of the donut cousin.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was beignet. I thought it was like sort of like Yeezy, is like beignet West.
No, they're the New Orleans versions, and they are absolutely covered in icing sugar, and they are amazing. And apparently, the guy who made Krispy Kreme, who started the Krispy Kreme franchise, won the recipe for Krispy Kreme donuts off a beignet maker in New Orleans.
Oh.
Which is in Louisiana. I know that one.
Which is in the United Arab Emirates. We know, G.
Yeah. I thought I was in Canada.
So I went and looked up donuts on the Wikipedia page, and there is an entire subsection just devoted to the science of donuts.
Yes.
I was like, I wonder if they do this for cakes, or I wonder if they do this for scones. No, just donuts.
Interesting.
It's like the way that it's baked has a lot to do with the viscosity of the dough, and it's where it's needed. It's like goes into like the little molecules.
And it's got the what do they call it? The Rylene factor or something?
Yeah. And it's like,
which to me just sounds like Tulhu.
Did you guys know that for Bridget Jones' Diary 2, Renee Zellweger put back on the weight by eating 20 donuts a day?
You can have donuts at the Smithsonian in America.
Ooh.
Famous highbrow museum, also home of a original Ring King Jr.
What's that?
Which, do you guys remember? It's not quite the same as this one, but do you guys ever remember going to Big Fresh, the supermarket that used to exist in like the 90s, and they used to have a donut machine, and it would like extrude like batter from a little thing and go bloop, and it would bloop it down into hot oil, and the donuts would just happily kind of bob along, and then there was a little like wheel that would flip them over, and then they'd flip over and the other half would get in the oil, and they'd just happily bobble along, and then they'd just get put onto a little conveyor belt at the end. They'd come out of the oil, they'd dry off a little bit, and then they'd just be turfed out, and you could have hot fresh donuts. It was amazing.
Sounds amazing. Hey, it's probably time we recap our facts so that we can do a vote. I'll start. My fact was that if you ate 27 donuts during the Tour de Donut, you would get a time of 0 seconds.
My fact is, if you were in the trenches, a donut might be just what you need.
My fact was that the whole truth about donuts is that no one knows how the hole got there or when.
A yeast-based donut is 25% oil.
We're going to vote on 3. 1, 2, 3, go. Yep, I think that's 2 votes for Kenny. Nathan Kenny takes it out. Yeah. Well done, Kenny.
Yes.
Are you doing the black power symbol?
Individual donut.
Thank you very much for listening. Please write your favorite donut fact just below here. And if there's anything else you would like to talk to us, keep on writing. Like, follow, tell all your friends, and catch us next week. Cheers.
Do not forget to come back
Can't
next
keep
week.
it.
Do not forget to come back. It's so good.
I'm not sorry. I will not apologize.
Oily kick your butt.